both arsenic and fluoride were deposited in the quaternary sediments of the delta, but those were inactive till we started to dig the bore or put the pipes to the deeper layer of the sediment and started to abstract the water. So it started to be contaminated or active when the shallow and deep tubes started to operate in the delta. This is the question number one. Second is, in the delta and even in Patna, river has a tendency to oscillate within a wide limit that in geomorphology we call it meander belt of the river. If you can look at the dynamics of the river historically, you will find there is a discipline. It oscillates within a known meander belt. It never goes beyond that. I was observing this with the historical maps of since 1767, or that of Renel, to the recent satellite image. It tends to oscillate, and that area needs to be identified. And in the National Ganga Basin Authority, in a group called Fluvial Geomorphology, headed by Rajiv Sinha, we were trying to identify the space for the river. That is very important, but problem is that in Bengal and even in Bihar, that area is most densely populated. But that area should be identified for the rivers. River has its active floodplain where it tends to oscillate within the known historical period. Lastly, what I like to add, what was the dramatic lack of understanding in river management? One is rivers are not the conduits of flowing water only, it is also the conduits of suspended solids. And the Ganga Brahmaputra system carries largest volume of the sediment load, more than what European and American rivers combined carries. That is the one problem. Whenever you dam this river or embank this river, first problem comes out is the dispersal of the sediment load is impaired. That happened in case of Farakka, that happened in case of DVC, that happened in case of many other rivers where we started to tame these rivers. Second is that how this river system operates. This rain-fed river system, during the monsoon, it reaches the peak, the Shishta reaches the peaks, and then it comes down. And during the lean season, it is the groundwater table that replenishes the river by base flow, what we call base flow. Whenever we started to exploit the groundwater table, exceeding the replenishable limit, that base flow reduced substantially, leading to the decay of the river system. So these are the problems we are encountered with. So these are, and this over-exploitation of the groundwater should first be restricted. My friends from Kashmir, you told about the encroachment into the wetland, and we have lost enough of wetland in the lower part of Bengal too. So these wetlands are also the recharge pit. That has created many more problems. With these few words, I stop here. Thank you.
Hello. Hello. Yeah, I'd like to just respond to that urbanization point. I've been telling about this restricting urbanization in a sense that will take some time to discuss, but I would just give you some examples. We call ourselves civilized, educated, and then we also call that we can continue with the greed and the animal instinct that we carry with us. So I think we are in a zone where we are confused. We have no right to call ourselves civilized if we can just go on abusing, and as you rightly said, without really having a solution how to recharge. I would say we are in a generation which is the last lucky generation of this earth. Because, for example, I give you one example from Odisha. The government says we have coal reserve for 1 lakh megawatt of power that can be generated. But Water Resources Department's assessment says that our water can sustain only 21,000 megawatt of water. And the requirement of the state is at a peak load 3000 megawatt. But the state wants to generate 75,000 megawatt for Delhi, for Mumbai, for Calcutta. So I think how long can for Delhi's water or Delhi's power requirement, Himachal Pradesh rivers should be dammed? And are we really interested to kill all the rivers everywhere? And we justify that because people want to migrate to urban areas because of the economic growth. Why don't you really go back to the root? Why people migrate? And where there is no decentralized urbanization or urban facilities? Why should there be places where all these big lights are, all these advertisements are still running 24/7, burning some coal down in Bihar or some coal down in Orissa and displacing people who are made to be beggars and made to be house servants in Delhi without really having the dignified identity of being a landowner in their own area, where there is no school in that area. So I think these are all debates that goes beyond what you want to say. But if we are really interested to be called civilized, then we have to see that the rivers which gave us the civilization have to be living, and the solutions lie there, that we cannot urbanize in the way that we are urbanizing. We may always say that economic growth is something we want, but our want are greedy wants. If we are really educated, we have to understand that we cannot really go like this, at least after few decades, because always there is a chain that is going to work. And the amount of recharging that this country has been able to do, at least during the last 50 years of water governance, is so pathetic that we are not sure that in that same rate, even if we start recharging, these are like the climate change negotiations, even if we start recharging now at a rate of 30 to 40% also, we will not be able to sustain the water resources for our greedy needs of the urbanites, I am telling, not the rural people, at least after 30 years. So within decades, if we are dying without water, why not? We de-urbanize in a bit that, in a sense that I am talking. I am not talking that de-urbanize means dismantle and whatever. De-urbanizing or restricting urbanization means it's a sort of a decentralized, urbanized facilities, and also a lot of regulation on energy use, lot of regulation on water use have to be done at the metropolis, at the urban areas, because the most water insensitive communities without any responsibility towards the natural resources are the urban centric people. We don't have forests you just see one example. Bandhapadhyay sir comes from West Bengal, I come from Orissa, everywhere. The rural communities protect the forest, the urban communities abuse them. The rural communities still have their ponds, tanks, rivers. Urban communities, Delhi has eaten of 700 ponds. They don't have a single one now. But the rural areas, they still dig the ponds under NREGS. We train them, we just tell them, dig more ponds, preserve them. But for the urban areas, only because they are economically prosperous, that is also at the cost of the rural people, at the cost of the farmers. They don't have the responsibility to protect they don't have a Thingapali system to protect their forest. They will never never mud their shoes to protect the forest. They will never mud their hands to dig a pond. But they will always say, because we have money, we have the right to bring water from Himachal, we have the right to bring, Mumbai can kill people near Pune for its own water. So is Delhi, so is Hyderabad. So in that sense, if we are really promoting a imbalanced kind of a growth, then how long is this economic growth is going to sustain? That is also another point. And so far as water is concerned, the imbalance that we have already created, that is not going to sustain beyond 2 decades. So we need to really understand whether we want to be really called educated or civilized for more time to come, or we just surrender to the blind, water guzzling, ecologically destructive economic growth path that we are taking. Thank you.